guys, today I am going to be doing a DIY refinishing of this tub and shower insert. Now we're redoing the rest of this guest bath, but this here is pretty much the only thing that we've left in here, and only really because it's in pretty good condition. It's old, but it's still in really good condition, and the only thing that we don't like about it is basically that outdated cream color. So we've been researching different ways in which to refinish fiberglass, and we came across this Rustoleum tub and tile refinisher. And it is a two-part epoxy acrylic formula, and it's supposed to produce a porcelain-like finish in just a few hours. And that's one of the things that this says. This should take you less than a day. We shall see about that. And it's fairly inexpensive and supposed to be easy to do. So I will go over real quick what this does actually work on and what it doesn't. This is for ceramic tile, porcelain, fiberglass, acrylic, cast iron, steel tubs, and sinks. It is not for galvanized steel or flexible plastic. So this should work on the fiberglass. And one of these kits covers, it says 70 to 110 square feet or 2 coats on a standard bathtub. So since we're doing the tub and the shower here, we ended up getting 2 kits. I don't know if we're gonna need both, but better safe than sorry. So we got 2 of these, and even at 2, it's still gonna be pretty inexpensive if this turns out the way that we're hoping it turns out. It's supposed to have the look and feel of porcelain when it's done, and it's supposed to have long wear. So if this does turn out, I will probably end up doing a how it held up video on this later, but again, we'll see if it turns out. So again, this is a 2-part system. It has the base here and the activator here. And you simply stir these together and then paint them on. From what I can tell with this, the most time-consuming part is going to be just the prep and cleaning of the surface. They want you to use a bleach and water solution, and then they want you to use an abrasive cleaner, and then lime away, and then sand, and then rinse, and let dry, and then you're ready to paint. But I will put a list of all the supplies that you're going to need on the screen, and I'll also show them to you as I'm using them. So the first step is to remove the metal drains, which we've already done, and brush or sand away peeling paint, which I don't have peeling paint because I have fiberglass. It then says to repair chips or cracks with a patching compound. And again, I don't have any chips or cracks on mine. And so then the next step is going to be to remove any mildew with a solution of bleach and water. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to make up some bleach and water and clean down the entire surface with that. Okay, here is my bleach water. I've also got gloves on. They recommend use gloves not only for the painting but the cleaning part. And then I've also got a fan running over here in the window, so that's the noise you're going to be hearing. And that's just to make sure my space is getting ventilated here, because you're using a lot of chemicals not only during the painting but the cleaning. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this bleach water and I'm gonna just clean down. I'm also using a sponge, and I'm gonna just clean down all the surfaces in the tub and shower. All right, I've got this all cleaned with the bleach, so now I'm going to rinse all of that off real well. I've got that all rinsed out, and now it says if you need to take an abrasive cleaner such as Comet, which is what I'm going to use, and clean all of the surface with that. And I'm going to just be using the abrasive side of the sponge to apply this with. Okay, I've got this all clean with the Comet, so now I'm going to rinse all of that off real well. I've got all that Comet washed out of there, and now at this point, if you have caulking around edges or whatever, if you don't have a one-piece insert like I do, you want to remove that caulking completely. But again, I don't have that because I have a one-piece. So the next step for me is now to take some lime away and an abrasive pad, and I'm going to just clean all the surfaces with the lime away and the pad, and then I'm going to leave this sit for 5 minutes. Got the lime away on here and scrubbed, and it says if you think you need to do it a second time, do it a second time. I don't think that I do because the surface looks pretty clean. So now I'm gonna just do a rinse on this, and then I'll be back with the next step. Okay, now that I've got that all rinsed out, I am going to be sanding all of this with a wet dry sandpaper. It says to use 400 to 600, and I'm gonna be using 600. So I'm gonna sand all of this, and then once I have it sanded, I'm gonna rinse it all down. All right, I got this all sanded and rinsed down. So this is what it's looking like now. And at this point, I have to let this dry completely. And then I'm gonna come back with a tack cloth and wipe all the surfaces down to get any of the residue left over from sanding off of there. Okay, this is dry. And so now I'm gonna take some of these tack cloths and I'm going to just go over the entire surface and remove any of this dust from the sanding. And then it will be ready to paint at that point. Okay, at this point I've got all the residue off there, or the dust from the sanding. We also went ahead and took the faucet and everything off of here instead of having to tape around it to not get paint on it. We're probably actually going to be replacing these, or we might replace them. So we just took them off to make the painting easier. And now I'm going to tape off this edge down here, and then I will mix up the paint and it'll be ready to go. Okay, so I've got my base here and my activator. You're supposed to stir each one of these up to make sure they're well mixed before you add them together. And then you're going to mix the two together. And stir, it says, for 2 minutes. And then after 2 minutes, it's ready to use. And you do have to use this all within a 6-hour period. So it does have a little bit of a time limit on it for when you have to use it once you've mixed these two together. And I need to get my fan going because this is really fumy. I've got this mixed together. Now it says you can apply this with a brush, a roller, or a sprayer. I'm gonna use a roller. I'm using these Bath & Kitchen 4-inch, a 1/4-inch nap rollers. I feel like the rollers are gonna provide the smoothest finish, so that's why I'm using that. But like I said, you could use a brush or a sprayer if you want to. I'm also going to be using a foam brush to get in corners where I can't reach with this. So I've got one of these painting trays and I'm gonna just pour this all in there. And I've got my gloves on. Actually, I'm not gonna pour it all, I'm gonna pour about half of it in there. Okay, so you're gonna simply get your brush wet. And then I'm gonna start on the back here and work my way down to the bathtub. And you're just simply gonna roll this on.
You can see why it has to do 2 coats.
And I should say that I'm not worried about the wallpaper or anything here because this is all gonna get covered later. I don't know if it's showing up, but there's little bubbles on here And the instruction says that that's going to happen, that those will self-level out and disappear. So hopefully that's the case. But I'm going to finish doing this. I'm going to do all the walls, and then I will do the bathtub last. But once I get all this on, I'll come back and show you what it looks like with the first coat on. Okay, here is what it looks like with one coat. And there's still a lot of that cream showing through. I'm not really that confident that 2 coats is gonna cover this. So it's probably gonna be more of a 3 to 4 coat job, but this right here only took about half of that can. We're probably gonna end up, I'm gonna guess, just looking at this now, getting into that second kit because I think it's gonna take more than 2 coats, but we shall see. So I'm gonna let this dry for a good hour, and then I will be back to put the second coat on, and I will show you what it looks like with 2 coats. Okay, this is the second coat, and there's a lot of that cream still showing through this. Now some of this, I don't know if it's picking up at all on the camera, but some of it looks pretty good. There's parts of it that actually look white, and then other parts that do not look very good. But I'm gonna let this set for another hour and move on to coat number 3. Okay, it is a few days later. I was initially gonna do my 3rd coat an hour afterwards, but when I went to do that, I realized it was still tacky, and I read the instructions on the can. It doesn't say anywhere in the box, but on the can it does say you need to wait overnight if you're going to do a 3rd coat. So decided to wait overnight, and my husband ended up calling Rustoleum. Well, I'll just let him tell you.
So the can says that the can that we used should have done 2 coats of a standard tub. This did 2 coats of a tub and an entire shower surround, so that didn't seem right. And as you can see, it isn't covering like it said it would, or other online videos showed that it would. So I was a little bit concerned that there was something wrong with the product, because also, you know, it wasn't as thick as I had anticipated it to be. So I called Rustoleum and started talking to them, and they did verify that one can should not have done 2 coats on a tub and entire surround. And they said that it should have covered better than it is. So obviously they thought that there was something not quite right with the product that we bought. And so they're actually refunding us the purchase price of the 2 cans that we bought, and we bought some more. Them are going to give it another go, obviously. And then through conversation with them, because obviously we need to do another coat, a 3rd coat, and maybe even a 4th coat. I wanted to make sure that they were comfortable with us moving forward, and they said that they thought that this hardened correctly, even though it didn't cover as well. But they did say if you're going to go more than 2 coats, obviously between the 2nd and 3rd coat you're supposed to wait a day, but you're also supposed to sand lightly with 220 sandpaper, and that's not anywhere on the instructions, so that's not information that's out there unless you actually talk to the company. The other thing that I did verify, because I'm concerned that we're just going to keep getting a thin product, is that if we're going to have to do a 4th coat, you can wait an hour and do it. So between the 1st and 2nd coats you wait an hour. Between the 2nd and 3rd coat you wait a day and you sand with 220. Between the 3rd and the 4th coat you just wait an hour. If for some reason you had to do multiple coats, then between the 4th and 5th coat you would have to wait a day and sand lightly with 220 before you put on the 5th coat. So this product's only good for 2 applications in one day, an hour apart. And then if you have to do a 3rd or a 5th coat, you would have to wait overnight and then do a light sanding with 220. 24
hours specifically, not just overnight, correct? They said 24 hours.
Yeah, she did say 24 hours.
Because I think it says 18 on the box. Overnight or 18 for a third coat.
Yeah.
But then she told you 24 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a little confusing. I was glad that I talked to the company. One, so we understood clearly what had to happen between the second and third coat. And I'm also pleased with the company that they stand behind their product and they're giving us a refund for the cans that we use because it appears that it's thinner than it should be.
Yeah, so that was impressive, actually. The customer service is impressive. The only complaint I would say, again, is that they should probably have if you need to do a third coat, you need to wait 24 hours and you need to do a light sanding with 220.
Yeah, and they also need to have the same instructions on all the different places where there are instructions.
Yeah.
So that should have been on the box and it should have been on the can, and it's not.
Yeah. Okay. So now I've actually already sanded this with 220. And I'm gonna wipe this down and I'm gonna do with tack cloth. And then I'm gonna do my third coat and I will show you what that looks like once it's done. Here's how we're looking at 3 coats. It's looking a lot better. There's still some spots that are not covering the best, but overall it's looking a whole lot better. I think that paint seemed to do a little better coverage than the last box. So on to coat number 4. Okay, here's what it looks like after 4 coats, and I'm really happy with it at the moment. It looks pretty much fully covered. I'm not seeing anything peeking through. So yeah, very happy with that. But now I've got to let it dry for 3 days. And then at that point, you're able to get water on it and use it. But yeah, I'll be back in 3 days to show you what it looks like then when it's fully cured and just give you some final thoughts on this. Also though, while I'm thinking about it, if you're like me and you get paint all over yourself when you're doing something like this, what I've been using and finding that works really well to remove it from my skin is isopropyl alcohol. That works great. So just a little tip there. It does say that on the box, but just thought I'd throw that out there, let you know that works really well, the isopropyl alcohol. It is 3 days later and this is completely cured now, and I think it is looking really, really good. I'm super happy with how this turned out. I'm really glad that we tried this product before we ended up ripping this insert out, because to me, it pretty much looks brand new. Now, it's not perfect. There's little imperfections here and there, but overall, it looks really, really good. So as far as the look of this product, I definitely think it's great. I would recommend it. As far as longevity, we shall see how that is. Once we start using it and stuff, we'll see how this holds up. But it looks really, really good. I did want to give you just a couple tips on this. The first one is, again, to ventilate, ventilate, ventilate. Here's my fan. I had that going. You also probably want to wear a mask because this stuff is potent. I mean, I'm not joking. The fumes from this stuff is awful. I ended up with a headache and I just didn't feel the best, to be completely honest, after being in a room with this stuff, breathing it in, even with a mask and ventilation. It's still, it's pretty strong. So that is probably my biggest negative of the product, is just the smell of it and the fumes and stuff that it puts off. As far as ease of application, it went on super easy. It took us 4 coats, but it still ended up looking great, and it was just easy to apply. Now, speaking of that though, I would not recommend using the foam brushes. These things right here, would not recommend these for going in the corners and stuff. And that's what I initially used these for, and they do not work very well. I ended up using a brush for the corners and just places where I couldn't get too easily with the roller. But the roller itself, I think, worked great. And also, to reiterate, if you need to do more than 2 coats, you need to wait 24 hours in between that second and third coat, and do a sanding with the 220, which they do not tell you on the box or the cans. But yeah, overall, I'm super happy with this. I love how it turned out, and I'm excited to use it and see how it holds up. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope maybe it helped you out. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.